I feel the reason there are so few safe men out there is because there are so few safe men out there. Men need to learn from other men how to be safe. And we really don't have many examples in our lives of a vibration of masculine safety that we can imprint and then emulate and provide that safety for ourselves and then for other people in our lives, women and children. There's so much starvation out there amongst women for safe, emotionally attuned, physically grounded and capable, competent men who can meet the needs of the feminine. And I understand this pain and this starvation is brutal, but what is also brutal is the starvation that men feel and can't even name for healthy masculine role models in their life, because there's such a pressure you feel unconsciously as a man that if you somehow admit that you don't have it figured out or that you need help from somewhere or that you're weak in some way, you're going to be cast out and rejected and unlovable, and you will have failed as a man. So your fear of seeming like a failure is actually what stops you from getting the help that you need to succeed in your relationships and your life. And I never thought that I would fall prey to this kind of vicious circle, but it's exactly what's played out in my life. Like a few years ago, I experienced heartbreaks and I was in need of a safe space where I could grieve, because I didn't know how to grieve in a healthy way. But I was so unwilling to admit that I was weak or vulnerable or in need of help that I actually made it my job and my career to help other people with this kind of thing. You could check out my Instagram. I started like a whole movement with a teacher in India that helped thousands of people expand themselves energetically and spiritually. And that's all great. And I don't regret it. And it was great that we did that. But at the root, it didn't actually meet the needs of the wounded little boy that was there. And then when a relationship came into my life or greater responsibility came into my life, it revealed that I was still standing on a very shaky emotional foundation of an unprocessed grief. And what I really needed was to feel safe and held myself so that I could go through these difficult emotions and see that this feeling is not going to kill me. I'm bigger than this feeling. And the more I've gone through that in recent months, the more I've been able to contain myself and learn how to also be there for others. It was really needed. We as men need other grounded men to show us what's possible within ourselves. And until we actually acknowledge this need that we have and that we can't get this fulfilled through the women in our life, we will never be able to be at our full potential and live a life where we don't feel like we're constantly disappointing the people around us. And I feel compassion is needed also from women, and to understand the struggle of a man conditioned and trapped in this very deeply set, toxic, outdated way of masculinity. Men are victims of this system as much as women are victims of this system. And men are the solution to this system as much as women are the solution to this system as well. But yeah, we have the need to learn how to be healthy. And I think that if you are feeling like a wounded boy in a relationship, expressing this to the woman that you're with, maybe it can work, but I feel that it often leads to a level of judgment or disappointment or resentment from the side of the woman. Maybe because inherently she cannot understand really the struggle that you are going through as a man or what it's like to be in your position. And she's not really supposed to be the one to understand and help you through that, because ideally you should have other men in your life, elders, whether it's in the form of like a coach or a friend or a family member or a men's circle, You either have to pay people to help you, or you're lucky enough to have that naturally in your life. But you need that kind of support system. And this is something that I've opened my eyes to in the past few months, this need that I had that I was not aware of. And it's been very humbling, but also very healing. So I think, yeah, we need to have more honest conversations around this. And especially men need to be willing to see that if they need help, they need help, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to have some compassion that when men are failing to meet the standards of the relationship that they have, it's because they're really wounded and they don't know how to fucking deal with it. And it's not to excuse what they do, but I feel there need to be more spaces where men can go and receive compassion, but at the same time accountability. And maybe it's only in the presence of other men that can really happen. So we really need to go back to a kind of tribal system of guidance and coaching, or I don't know what to call it, but yeah. See, wounded men create more wounded men. And when a boy is a child and sees unsafe men around him, he feels very much in danger. And what he learns is that the only way that he can be safe is to become more unsafe than the unsafe men that he has experienced, to deter them, to conquer them, to create at least a bit of safety for himself. So he learns that the only way to be safe is to become unsafe. Or what can also happen is you feel so unsafe by the anger or power displayed by men that you start to disown your own anger and you disown your own power, and you think that the way to become a safe man is to become a castrated people pleaser kind of person. And that doesn't really serve to support or protect or serve or nourish anything in life, including yourself and the woman in your life. So it's this delicate balance of power, authority, but also humility and emotional openness. And it's such a paradox that I think you can only learn it by seeing it embodied by somebody else and absorbing that and finding your own expression of that. There's no way to, I think, understand it intellectually. So if we want more safe men, we need to be around safe men and learn from them. So it's the only way, I think. And yeah, I just think that and I think there is hope, because because we feel that we're alone. We feel we have to figure everything out by ourselves. But the more we open ourselves to receiving wisdom from life and the people around you, what I found is that no matter where you are, whether it's in like the Himalayas around gurus, or whether you're in a city like London, life finds a way to speak to you through events in your life, through finding the right videos online, even through people who you may not even consider to be as wise or as attuned as you. Like a line, they'll say something or they'll drop a hint, and it feels like some greater intelligence is speaking to you through these everyday things. And I'm very grateful for that presence and that guidance. So I think no matter how isolated you feel, if you open yourself to receiving, you will always find life comes to meet you in some way, and it will help you on a journey to find the kind of support that you need, because I don't think life turns its back on somebody who is willing to open themselves and learn. The only time life turns its back to you is when you turn your back to life, when you say, I'm no longer willing to learn, I'm no longer willing to meet life, to serve life. I'm just want to keep what I have and stay fixed, which is the state that many of ourselves find ourselves in, especially after going through difficult or traumatic experiences. I think what really hurts us more than the experience is the loss of trust in life, and how we then isolate ourselves, whether literally physically or just emotionally withdraw ourselves and become numb and just refuse to feel life anymore because we feel betrayed. But actually the withdrawal is the betrayal. You're betraying yourself, you're betraying your own experiences and your own emotions, you're betraying the fullness of who you are, which is also the pain, not just the pleasure. Ironically, you're trying to serve yourself by reaching for the pleasure and avoiding the pain, but that's how you rip yourself apart and you disown parts of who you are. Love is very different from striving and ambition. Ambition, I think, seeks to escape the negative and grab the positive, but love embraces both. And the only way to experience that is surrendering to that and being also around people, beings, and nature where that vibration, that acceptance is in the air, and you start to imbibe or remember that very fundamental, effortless love that you have in your nature. And love is just like it's the medicine, man. It's so necessary. It's like oxygen. We need it. And it's everywhere. It's really everywhere. We just get very good at thinking ourselves into states where we feel very cut off from it. But if you just open and you just allow yourself to feel the worst of the worst, the love is right there with it. I think the thing that you least want to feel is the gateway to the thing that you need most. And for me, it's not even about, on the other side of your fears, there's like the great achievement that will make you feel good and whatever. That's also true. But on a deeper level, it's like behind the sensation that you really just don't want to feel anymore, that you construct your entire life around avoiding. Allowing yourself to feel that is what actually expands your heart to then suddenly feel the ocean of love that is in everything. And when you feel that, life begins. Real life. And I know I'm saying these things, but I struggle just as much, if not more than you, to stay connected to this love. Because speaking about it is one thing, feeling it in moments, channeling it even in a video is one thing. But to live it in the moments where you are really feel weak and you're challenged the most, that is tough. In relationships, in arguments, when you feel judged, when you feel misunderstood, when you feel in pain, when that wounded child in you is triggered, you just want to withdraw and run away. Finding the space to relax with that is the work, and it's tough work. It's difficult. And I think it gets easier only when you accept that it's going to be fucking difficult. It's not going to be easy. It doesn't matter how smart you are, or how eloquent you are, or how successful you've been at other things. Opening your heart is difficult for everyone. You're not alone in it. You don't have the worst of it. Everybody experiences pain beyond their current capacity. It's just part of being human. And as growth is just expanding your capacity to be able to experience that pain without flinching. And that expands the possibilities for your life. But this pain, this process is very humbling. It teaches you grit and perseverance. Like starting a company or doing something very difficult. I think what makes people quit, including myself, I've quit things that were very difficult. Even though they were going broadly well, I felt like I was failing to do a good job because I measured myself based on my past successes. And I expected myself to be able to do as well at, let's say, starting a project or healing my heart as I did at like how good I was at school. But these are very different domains. I was naturally talented at academics, and I was not naturally talented at like starting an organization, a movement, or let's say naturally talented at healing my heart. And maybe nobody is naturally talented at these things. You just have to go through the struggle of it. But I was not used to the experience of going through the struggle of something. I was not used to showing up every day, failing by the yardstick of what I knew or could envision in my mind was possible, and just not being able to meet that, and being appalled at my actual performance of how I was showing up, and really judging myself for not being able to meet my own standards that I had cooked up in my mind. And instead of having the grace and the courage and the grit to show up every day, despite feeling like an idiot, despite feeling like I was failing, but still persevere and still keep showing up and just going through that process and accepting the incremental improvements, going through that really, really refines you into somebody I feel who's powerful. And I just wish that I had known that it's okay to suck. And people tried to tell me, man, and I'd seen other entrepreneurs or whatever say that. People really tried to tell me like, it's okay to suck, and you're actually doing a good job, and like everybody would struggle at this. It's just a difficult thing to do. But something in my mind just wouldn't accept it, because I had this big ego version of myself that, yeah, but I've done things that were considered really difficult for other people, and I've done them with relative ease, like being top of my class in Oxford, publishing a paper at MIT, and all this kind of stuff. So I just had these really lofty, unrealistic expectations of myself that I should be able to just perform and be really good at everything in my life and just be perfect at everything. And if only I didn't have these expectations, I probably would have been way less hard on myself and been way more open and have the energy available to learn more lessons and approach it in a more humble way and use less energy on beating myself up and actually fucking learn and actually grow and actually engage and live. But instead, I was just trying to be perfect and hiding from all the experiences that would have made me feel imperfect, hiding from the best opportunities that I had to actually grow and enrich in my life. Now, don't get me wrong, I still grew, I still enriched myself, but probably only a fraction of what I could have done with those opportunities, with every day as an opportunity, because I was just so afraid of being revealed as a failure. Just had this binary thinking that either you're perfect and then you're okay, you're worthy, or if you're slightly imperfect, totally unworthy, you failed, you suck, your day was not worthwhile, your life is not worthwhile, fuck you. And I wonder how many people live like this, with this constant terror of like just making a little mistake and everything is worth nothing. It's not fun to live like this. It's not fun. And you punishing yourself, and you'll end up punishing everybody in your life, either by holding them to like a ridiculously high standard, or failing to meet even basic standards because you're unwilling to admit that you suck and start from where you are. You're unwilling to start from where you are. You're just expecting that somehow you can mentally project yourself to suddenly be where you'd like to be. That's not love. That's not growth. That's not courage. That's not even fucking human. It's not real. It's just a fantasy of a very cruel kind. Perfectionism, man. And men, I think, suffer from this perfectionism. Some more than others. But we like to hold ourselves to godlike standards. And women, to an extent, also hold us to godlike standards. And I think that's ultimately the culmination of what it means to be a man, is to channel the presence of God through you and let God act and speak through you. But to reach that level, you have to start from where you are, broken and imperfect. And if you're not willing to or able to have the openness and the grace to be kind to yourself as you are, with all the flaws and the imperfections and the failures and the mistakes and all the times you've hurt people and all the times you've wronged people, all the times you've done things that you're ashamed of, if you're not able to fully embrace, hug yourself as you are and accept yourself as you are, then you will never be able to channel the presence of God in your life, because the presence of God in your life would forgive you, has the strength and the grace and the unimaginable, irrational capacity to forgive you for being what you are. And from there starts real growth, real integrated growth. And I think we're so terrified to stop judging ourselves for being selfish, for being wounded, for being filled with shame or weakness or fear and doubt. We're so scared to stop judging ourselves for being where we are, because we think that somehow accepting that is like a defeat and we're gone and forsaken. Whereas ironically, because we're unable to love and accept that, that's what keeps us in this state of self-rejection, of being forsaken, of being unworthy of love. And it's that lack of love that stops actually the trapped emotions in your body of shame and guilt from alchemizing into something healthy and constructive. So we've got it all backwards. And the things that we fear the most, like we may fear rejection, we may fear humiliation, we may fear being abandoned by the people that we love. Fearing those things, I've noticed, it actually creates behaviors and tightness and weird, irrational kind of fishy movements that ends up manifesting exactly that. People lose trust in you, you disappoint them, they have to take a distance from you because you keep hurting them, because you're so afraid of hurting them. Because I'm afraid of conflict, I end up not actually expressing my feelings or opening a dialogue that can bring real peace and heart-to-heart connection. I avoid conversations, I take decisions by myself, and I make other people feel excluded and unimportant, and I take distance from them and I make them feel rejected, which then makes them reject me. So because I was afraid of getting into a conflict where I would feel rejected, I have avoided opening my heart to that person, which creates rejection of them. I ended up rejecting them, rejecting my own heart, and then they'll reject me. So fear of something ends up creating exactly that thing. I just hope that I learn this and realize this on my heart level so that I stop making the same mistakes and can learn to make new mistakes. And I think that's the best I can hope for. Not perfection. I'm done with fucking perfection, man. I'm fucking done. I just hope that I can make a new, more interesting mistake that can lead to more smiles and laughter and love for everybody around. And I think that's the best I can hope for now. And maybe that's the best I can ever hope for as a human being. But you know what? I think for the first time, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. It's better than just trying to be perfect and just staying stuck where I am. So I hope you found something of resonance and use in this video. Thank you for watching, and please stay connected to your heart and to life. I know I will try. And we're in this together. We're all alone in this together. Thanks for watching.